Formally, very good morning to you all and welcome on this very holy day. I'm glad that you found the time away from the celebrations, though I would presume that because of COVID, celebrations are also very muted and they're not the usual kind of celebrations that we are used to with respect to Holi. So nevertheless, thank you for being a part of the class. Today being session 16, we will look at the yoga of meditation. And the reason why we're going to be looking at yoga meditation once again is because of this plan that I have shared with you. So you are aware that we've done Jnana Yoga, Karma Yoga. And then after Jnana Yoga and Karma Yoga, we did Samabuddhi and Buddhi Yoga, which gave us a very practical orientation to the steps between Jnana Yoga and Karma Yoga. Then we looked at Dhyana Yoga, which is totally 9 shlokas, and we've done 5 of them last time, and we're going to do the remaining 4 today, and that will complete the selection that we have, because Dhyana Yoga is, of course, the subject of a full chapter, which is chapter 6. There are about 35 shlokas, and there are references to Dhyana Yoga across the other parts of the Gita also. So we would be doing, in effect, maybe 1/5 of the shlokas, but representative ones. And therefore, we can proceed with the shlokas that we are going to do today. So we're going to do 6.2, 6.21, and 6.29 and 6.35. And just for our own recollection, 6.19 was the last shloka we did. And this was the last shloka where we had said, Yatha Deep Nivatasto Nengate Sopamaspata Yogino Yata Chittasya Sopa Yoginaha Yunjat Yata Chittasya Yoginaha. So essentially saying that the lamp, which is in a windless place, is the kind of comparison that we need to make of a yogi's mind, which is totally without any agitation. So this is the broad intent of the last shloka of the previous session. And since the shlokas of this session are 6.2 and 6.21, the first two at least, I thought we should begin with what we did the last time so that we can look at the continuity. We, of course, saw this image, and it is indeed a flame which is not flickering as it has been picturized. And let us therefore go to 6.20. So I'm using a little bit of the Sanskrit, in terms of totality. So we have the shloka, we have the anvaya, we have the padhartha, and we have the anuvada. So anuvada is, of course, translation, but now that we are fairly familiar with the sequence of flow within this, we thought that it would be appropriate to use the right terms. So the shloka in terms of the chanting would be like this. Yatro paramate chittam niruddham yoga sevaya yatra chaivatmanatmanam parsyanatmani tushyati. Now this is a straight chant, but we must also remember that the shloka is in a poetic meter, and therefore if this were to be recited in a poetic meter, it would sound like this. Yatro paramate chittam niruddham yoga sevaya yatra chaivatmanatmanam parsyanatmani tushyati. So if we deconstruct the shloka and put it in word order, we have the anvaya. We have yatra yoga sevaya niruddham chittam uparamate yatra cha atmana atmani atmanam pashyan eva tushyati. So yatra we understand where, or that in which, or it's the kind of start point. So yatra, that in which, yoga sevaya. So yoga ki seva se sevan we understand. Kisi ka sevan karna is to utilize that, and therefore yoga sevaya would logically mean by the practice of yoga. Niruddham, niruddha we understand, it is to hold back, and therefore the name Aniruddha is someone who cannot be held back technically. So niruddham is restrained. Chittam we understand is the mind. It is used for, it's used very interchangeably. In this case, it means a mind. In a previous discussion, we had said chitta actually means memory, but memory can also be represented by the word smriti. But let's look at the meaning which is relevant to this shloka. So, yatra yoga sevaya niruddham chittam uparamate. So, chittam becomes, so there are two characteristics of the chittam that emerge from the yoga sevaya. One is that it becomes niruddham, and secondly, it becomes uparamate. Uparamate means it becomes silent and still. So restraint is maybe the first step, and the consequence is silent and still. So these two are bundled together as the consequence of the yoga practice that you do, the result of the yoga practice that you've done. Further, there is a very interesting set of three words. So yatra cha and yatra, where, so the same kind of opening that we have. Atmana, Atmani, Atmanam Pashyam. So actually this in poetry is called alliteration, when you have the same syllable repeating. So you have Atmana, Atmani, Atmana. However, we find that the case ending is different, and therefore Atmana is different from Atmani, is different from Atmanam, and we can see the meaning. Atmana is by the Atma, by the self. Atmani is within the self. Atmanam, the self. Pashyan. So the interesting set of three words would translate in English. We can actually jump to the English where we say that in which the self is seen within the self by the self. So it's like of the people, by the people, for the people kind of situation, though there are only two mentions, in terms of the action. So Atmana, Atmani. So you see your Atma with the help of your Atma within your Atma. So it may seem to be like a puzzle, but it is also one of the characteristics that are mentioned among the two. So the first set of practices are Yoga Sevaya Niruddham Chittam Uparamate. The second set of practices is Atmana, Atmani, Atmanam Pashyan. Then we have a closing phrase which is called Eva Tushyati. So Tushti is happiness. So Tushyati is, so when you do all this, you become satisfied. So let me go to the diagrammatic representation, which is the yantra, which would clarify the meaning of this. And we'll come back to the flowing English and the Hindi that we have as the Anuvada. So here we have, so the start point is yatra. So you are the start point, that is, wherever your practice is. Then Yoga Sevaya and Atmana, these represent the process or the tool. So let us take the first one. If the process is Yoga Sevaya, that is practice of yoga, then the output is Niruddham Chittam Uparamati. And the consequence or the outcome of that is Eva Tushyati. So the soul is satisfied. So you have one flow, which is the top part of the diagram, which is what is there in the orchard color. Now, the second tool that you can use is you can use your own self. And what is the output? You see yourself with yourself. And when you do that, and that's highlighted in the green, and then also that results in Eva Tushyati. So the first one, Yoga Sevaya Niruddham Uparamate Chittam, is actually easy to understand. But the second one is kind of difficult to grasp, because to understand how Atmana, Atmani, Atmanam Pashyati is a little bit of a riddle, in the sense that unless you've been through some kind of meditation yourself, you will not be able to clearly understand this. So let me try to explain to the extent that I can the second half of the entire shloka, which is Atmana, Atmani, Atmanam Pashyati. So Atmana obviously means, you are looking at a mind which is calm, so you yourself. Then when you go deeper into meditation, right, Atmani, you are able to see, you yourself are able to see that you have an Atma inside. That is how I would take it. So this actually represents great depth in meditation. And I think our ability to fully appreciate this is also going to be a function of our little experience with meditation. But whether we do Yoga Sevaya Niruddham Uparamati, which is something that we can easily relate to as a process, output and outcome, we have all experienced the outcome, Eva Tushyati, we are satisfied. So with this, broad understanding, let's go back to the translation that we have, that in which the mind becomes silent and still by the practice of yoga. So this is the first line. Yatra yoga sevaya niruddham uparamate. That in which the self is seen within the self, by the self. Seen not as mistranslated falsely or partially by the mind and represented to us through the ego, but perceived by the self, swaprakasha. Right? So therefore, when you see the self by the self, I think the key term here is swaprakasha. There is this intelligent understanding that you derive from inside, and therefore you are satisfied. So the last line is, the soul is satisfied and knows the supreme bliss as yoga. So the outcome is being very clearly mentioned here, and the two processes, lend themselves to a statement from Krishna as to what happens when you are in the meditative practice, because this, we must realize, is also the 20th shloka of the 6th chapter, and therefore a fair amount of instructions have been given about how to meditate and the consequences of meditation. Now let's look at the Hindi translation to see if this throws any further light. जिस स्थिति में योगाभ्यास से निरुद्ध हुआ योगी का चित्त बाहरी गति का परित्याग करके भीतर ही शांत और निश्चल हो जाता है, और जिस स्थिति में आत्मा के द्वारा आत्मा का दर्शन करता हुआ आत्मा में ही तृप्ति का अनुभव करता है, उस स्थिति को योग जानो. So I think Hindi conveys the chaining of the meanings far better than English, because as I've always said, Hindi and any regional language is always helpful. So जिस स्थिति में आत्मा के द्वारा आत्मा का दर्शन करता हुआ आत्मा में ही तृप्ति का अनुभव करता है, उस स्थिति को योग जानो. So this, I think, is a fairly clear.
Can I ask something here itself?
Yes, absolutely. So let me stop the share. And
no, don't stop the share. It is related to that itself.
Okay, right. So let me just go back to the share. Yes, tell me. I'm just putting the share back. Yeah, tell me.
Yeah, the Hindi translation says also a word called Bahari Gati ka Parityag.
Correct.
ये क्या श्लोक का पार्ट नहीं लग रहा है ये explanation ना?
No, okay. So Bahari Gati ka Parityag actually refers to this particular, let me just go to the commentary, because it comes in the commentary. I'll just tell you. So in the commentary, and I'll just come back to the diagram. What is this? It's jumping forward. Okay. So in the commentary, he says that if the thoughts are destroyed, his existence too is threatened. Patanjali's definition of yoga chitta vritti nirodha, agrees well with the wording of this way. So see, in Patanjali Yoga Sutra, I'll come back to the diagram and then explain, how that kind of links up. 1 minute. Correct. So when we actually, so if you recall some of the earlier shlokas that we did in the previous class, we said that you have to, you have to sit quiet, you have to cut out the, environmental influences, you have to close your eyes. So that is what they mean by saying Bahari, Gati ka Parityag. So it is.
Raj, मेरा reservation actually क्या है इस बात के लिए कि जो हम ध्यान की बात हम लोग करते हैं उसमें एक्चुअली बाहरी गति से बेपरवाह होने की बात करते हैं, परित्याग की बात खास तौर से नहीं करते हैं. वो उसका मतलब ये है कि हम लोग मतलब परित्याग का मतलब एक तरह से हम वो सन्यासी वाले मोड में जाने की बात नहीं करते हैं. जब हम जनरली मासेस के लिए ये बात करते हैं तो हम मतलब बाहरी चीजों से बेपरवाह होने की बात जरूर करते हैं ताकि आप अंदर से बात कर सको. तो मुझे श्लोक में भी एक्चुअली परित्याग का कंसेप्ट नहीं दिख रहा है, इसलिए मैंने ये बात पूछी.
No, आप एकदम correct हैं. So what I can do is, let me go to another translation. So the thing is that, all translations may not be accurate. So 1 minute, I'll just go to one more translation that we have. I will go to Gita Super site that we have. Yeah? And this is 6.20, right? So I'll go to Shloka 6 and Shloka 20. Let's see whether we get a Shloka 20. Okay. Then for translations, I'll go to Swami Ram Sukdas and Hindi translation Tejomayananda. Okay, so let us look at how they have translated this. So I'll also, let me say 1 minute. I don't know whether you, let me increase the size. Okay. Okay. So we have, what do we have here? योग का सेवन करने से जिस अवस्था में निरुद्ध चित्त उपरम हो जाता है और जिस अवस्था में स्वयं स्वयं अपने आप में अपने आप को देखता हुआ अपने आप में संतुष्ट हो जाता है. ओके, दैट इज तेजोमय आनंद. एंड योग सेवन करने से जिस अवस्था में निरुद्ध चित्त उपराम हो जाता है और जिस अवस्था में स्वयं स्वयं, yeah, so they have not mentioned anything here. So I think this Hindi translation stems from the fact that this English translation is the translation of Aurobindo. Okay. And someone is translating his English directly into Hindi. Okay. Without realizing the implications.
Okay, okay. Fine.
So I agree with you. It's not an accurate translation, and I think that's the learning that we have from the shloka. So thanks for pointing that out, because I mean, you are a better master of Hindi than I am, and therefore the nuance of meaning you picked up very
It was
clearly.
not actually related to Hindi only. It was related to that concept. ना actually परित्याग करने की बात हम गीता के थ्रू करना ही नहीं चाहिए हमको, as far as जो गीता का जो ओरिजिनल कंसेप्ट है.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So it is both your understanding and your sensitivity to Hindi. So thank you for pointing that out.
Okay, then proceed. You can proceed now.
Okay. So now we come to the flow in terms of the meaning. So what he's saying is, I think aligned to what we've been just discussing. The winds of passion do not arise anymore. They have been quelled by the very flame of jnana. Sense organs do not operate, do not bring any pressure on the mind. Mind stops, in the sense it reaches a thoughtless state. Now, it is hard to imagine this nature of thoughtlessness for a non-yogi, because he does not know what is annihilation of thoughts. He finds it is very difficult to believe there's such a state exists. His very existence appears to be resting on mental thoughts, as he identifies himself with the self and the mind and the ego. If thoughts are destroyed, his existence too is destroyed, is what he thinks. However, what happens when his thoughts are controlled and kind of destroyed is, you are actually entering the first step of yoga. Okay, so that's the implication of 6.20. So with that, let me move to 6.21. Yeah, 6.21. So what do we have in 6.21? Again, you see, it's a kind of flow from 19, 20, and 21. So we have Sukha matyantikam yattad buddhi grahya matindriyam veti yatra na chaivayam sitas chalati tatvatah. So in terms of its recitation in a poetic form, it is Sukha matyantikam yattad buddhi grahyamatindriyam veti yatra na chevayam stitas chalati tatvatah. So the anvaya here is yat atyantikam sukham buddhi grahyam atindriyam tat. So yat and tat we can kind of understand. Tat veti yatra cha stitah ayam tatvatah na chalati. So what's the sentence order telling us? Yat, that is where or that which, atyantikam sukham. So sukham we understand, bliss, happiness. Ati antakam, so anta is the end. Ati antakam is supreme. So supreme happiness or true and exceeding happiness. Buddhi grahyam, so grahan karna, buddhi grahyam, that is that which is understood by the intellect. Atindriyam is beyond indriya, we understand. Atindriya is beyond the senses. So it means that it cannot be perceived by the senses. You cannot see it, touch it, feel it, taste it, or smell it. Tat veti, if you know something like this, and again, once you know it, yatra stitaha, so once you get established in such a state, evam tatvatah, and understand it, na chalati, you don't fall away. So achal hona. Chalati is in this case the opposite of achal. Achal is something that does not shake, and therefore something like sthita pragya or sthira buddhi, something like that is being hinted here. Let's go to the yantra for this, and then we will understand probably a little better. So the start point is for you to know But what do you have to know? Atyantikam sukham. Okay, that is true and exceeding bliss. And when you have understood true and exceeding bliss, then what happens is the consequence, and you are established in the true and exceeding bliss. So that is a condition. The consequence is that you have understood the spiritual truth and you do not, get demoted from there. You do not fall off from there. And buddhi grahyam and atindriyam, which you find at the bottom, are actually characteristics of the sukham. So that's why I have put it like that. So it is not a primary condition, it is an explanation of the sukham, but it is something that we have to understand to be a property of the sukham. So property of the sukham is it can be understood by the buddhi. Property of the sukham is that it is beyond the understanding of the senses. So once you are established, yatra cha sthitaha. So once you are established in this sukham, and yat veti, and when your soul knows, so your soul has to experience what is called atyantikam sukham, then tatvatah na chalati eva. So tatvatah you can find is a consequence. So therefore you do not fall away from that, which means hopefully once you become a little wiser, it is difficult to become unwise. I mean, that's what we find, right? Once you mature, of course, you may have your difficulties in terms of ups and downs, but you cannot suddenly immature yourself to a very great extent. And therefore, once you're established in a certain amount of wisdom, you're likely to na chalati from that wisdom, which is what the yantra is indicating to us. And, let's look at how the translation flows. So one of my learnings from, the interaction today is the English translations of Aurobindo are kind of complicated, and the Hindi translations just are done blindly, and they do not look at the sensitivities of the actual shloka meaning. So henceforth, what I will do is I will cast my sort of net wider to look at the translations that we have in the Gita super site, so that we have a more accurate translation. So let's look at, for our understanding, what the translation indicates here, where one knows that infinite happiness, which can be grasped by the intellect, but is beyond the grasp of the senses, wherein established one does not swerve from that condition. So I think here it's a fairly straightforward translation. And let's look at the Hindi. जो सुख आत्यंतिक अतीन्द्रिय और बुद्धिग्राह्य है, उस सुख का जिस अवस्था में अनुभव करता है और जिस सुख में स्थित हुआ यह ध्यान योगी फिर कभी तत्व से विचलित नहीं होता. I don't know whether that conveys the meaning as strongly as it is conveying in the yantra and in the English, but I think we get the sense of the shloka. Again, you see, we need to understand that these are all highly mystical, highly experiential shlokas. So much of the meaning would arise, and we are kind of deconstructing it like this so that we are able to get a sense of what the shloka means. But obviously, if we've not done any kind of meditation at all, we would not be able to grasp intuitively. We can probably grasp cognitively the meaning, but intuitively, it will still elude us because we are only understanding the words. We're not understanding the experience. So all these are pointers to us to sharpen our meditation practice in the first place. So let me look at the meaning here in terms of Tatparya, where in which special state a yogi experiences absolute, infinite, unsurpassable bliss, which is the same as Brahman, which is beyond the senses, which is not manifested through contact of objects and organs, which can be intuited only by the intellect, that is devoid of the taint of rajas and tamas, and consists of sattva only. So here there's a definition of buddhi. Kaisa buddhi? Because the buddhi is able to understand, so there's a definition that the buddhi has to be devoid of rajas and tamas and consists of sattva only. And where being established, this person, the enlightened one, does not swerve from reality. Swerve from reality is tatvatah na chalati. And in fact, this particular Tatparya is from Madhusudan Saraswati, who was actually a great commentator. I just picked his English Tatparya from the translation by Swami Gambhirananda of the Ramakrishna Math. So you can see that in the 14th century, when this was written, he had absolute clarity about what he's talking about. So some of the Tatparyas of our ancient commentators are indeed, very, very revealing. And they add some additional meaning, which the modern commentators obviously either have gone through and don't repeat. So hopefully the meaning is very clear. So we can see that the buddhi has to be a good buddhi, has to be a sat buddhi, which is devoid of rajas and tamas, and then the entire flow of the red boxes we can understand. Okay, so that was one more intent in creating the yantra in terms of the color coding of the borders, so that you can see the flow of the entire process of evolution of being sthira buddhi, and of course samabuddhi, sthira buddhi. All these are outcomes or consequences of knowing this process, and therefore it also adds up to our previous understanding of Jnana Yoga, Samabuddhi, and Buddhi Yoga and Karma Yoga, which is the sequence in which we did the shlokas earlier. Now, coming to 6.29, we have therefore an interesting shloka here. Sarva bhutas tathatmanam sarva bhutani chatmani ikshate yoga yuktatma sarvatra samadarshana. So I just chanted this. Let's look at the Anvaya. Yoga yukta atma sarvatra samadarshana. So this we can appreciate. So one who is full of this kind of yoga, yoga yukta atma, the man whose self is in yoga, we can see that first phrase. Sarvatra, everywhere, samadarshana. So we are going back to our definition of samabuddhi. So samadarshana. Atmanam sarva bhutastam. So he sees himself in all the bhutas. Bhutas are beings. And parallelly, sarva bhutani cha atmani. In all the bhutas, he sees the atma. So apne ko auron mein dekhta hai, auron ko apne mein dekhta hai, as we would say in Hindi. And ikshate is sees. Ikshate is a verb form which says sees. So let's look at the translation here. The man whose self is in yoga. So in other words, you've done what the previous shlokas have indicated. So what's going to happen to you? So you will see the self in all beings and all beings in the self. He's equal visioned everywhere. Okay. And let's look at the Hindi translation here. Jiska atma yog se yukt ho gaya hai, सबको समान दृष्टि से देखने वाला योगी, वह आत्मा को समस्त भूतों में देखता है और समस्त भूतों को आत्मा में देखता है, which is okay, fair enough as a translation. So looking at the yantra for this, we have therefore an individual and his characteristics. So what are they? So you are a yoga yukta atma, and therefore what do? You have sarvatra samadarshana. You have atmanam sarva bhutastam, and ikshate is a verb which is common to the third box also. Sarva bhutani cha atmani ikshate. So in other words, these are the characteristics of an individual who is full of the dhyana yoga, the outcomes of dhyana yoga, and therefore is again a descriptive. So there are some shlokas which prescribe the process. There are some yogas, some shlokas which are looking at the end result of that. Some of them are looking at the top of the mountain. Some of them are looking at the foot of the mountain. And therefore, the Bhagavad Gita has a wide variety of advice to give to a wide variety of spiritual aspirants at different levels that they may be. So this is an indication of one of the broad consequences of doing dhyana yoga or dhyana. So the tatparya here is, those who have attained purity through yoga see the self in all beings. It's 12 o'clock. Okay. I think we have about 8 minutes left, so we can still continue. Those who have attained purity through yoga see the self in all beings, and all beings in the self with equal vision everywhere. Mind is eliminated. When we say mind is eliminated, we mean the agitation of the mind is eliminated. It is in fact oblivious to its own presence. All the ignorance which was there has vanished because of the modification. Because modification, chitta vritti, as they say. So all the thoughts that we have are called modifications of the mind, the language of yoga, because those modifications have vanished. And therefore, what is business does not exist, because the mind, for this mind, it is unreal. So in other words, you are able to look at the differences that happen in the external world in a kind of balanced way, because your Atman, the witness, the absolute substratum alone exists. That is why it is able to see all things in itself and sees oneself in all things. So again, this is a state of consequence of doing dhyana yoga. It is not one of the processes. So since Krishna has said so many things about the process of meditation, about the end result of meditation, there is an objection from Arjuna saying, boss, all this does not happen. The mind is very difficult to control. And if you think that all this is going to be something that I'm able to attain, I would definitely not be able to do that. And therefore, this is a statement from Krishna acknowledging the difficulty. So what does Krishna say? Asamshayam mahabaho mano durnigraham chalam abhyasena tu kaunteya vairagyena cha grishyate. So he mahabaho asamshayam manah chalam durnigraham tu he kaunteya abhyasena vairagyena cha grishyate. So in other words, he Mahabahu is, of course, an appellation for Arjuna. Assumption, without any doubt. Manaha, chalam. So we saw the earlier chalam was using to achalam, but here it is chalam. So manaha is chalam, restless, durnigraham, difficult to control. Indeed. So Krishna acknowledges that all that he has said is going to be difficult to practice in real life because of these two characteristics of the mind. He Kaunteya, he Arjuna, abhyasena, by constant practice, vairagyena, by constant non-attachment, cha grihyate. Grihyate is controlled. Therefore, we look at the yantra straight away because that helps us understand. So the yantra says, so there's an acceptance of an as-is situation. There is no doubt about it. Of what's the problem? The manaha is chalam and durnigraham, very difficult to restrain. What's the solution? Abhyasa and vairagya, grihyate is control. So this, I think, is a very, very clear representation of the entire thing. Because unless you say asamshayam, so the point is that if we say, no, I can control my mind, then if you don't acknowledge the problem, then you don't know the solution. But Krishna himself acknowledges the problem as asamshayam, and then manaha, and the two characteristics are chalam and durnigraham, which we saw, and abhyasa, so constant practice, and vairagya. So we have to understand vairagya in a little more of detail as to what kind of vairagya is meant here. So let's go to the translation first and see, and then move on to the Tatparya. So without doubt, O mighty arm, the mind is restless and very difficult to restrain, but O Kaunteya, it may be controlled by constant practice and non-attachment. And in Hindi we have, Shri Bhagavan ने कहा, हे महाबाहो अर्जुन, निस्संदेह मन चंचल स्वभाव का है और बहुत कठिनता से वशीभूत होने वाला है, परंतु वह अभ्यास से और वैराग्य से वशीभूत किया जा सकता है. So there is no kind of there's no ambiguity in the meaning here. I think it's one of the most straightforward shlokas, but I think it calls for understanding. Abhyasa, we understand, we have to constantly practice mind control, and even if we fail, we should continue the practice, and therefore that part of the equation is fairly clear. The question is, what do we mean by vairagya here? And there is a kind of translation here, or tatparya here, that if the Lord himself accepts difficulty of controlling the mind, then we are encouraged to keep persevering, attempting at bettering ourselves. Vairagya is an important aspect to acquire mano nigraha. So it does not explain why vairagya is required. It only says it is important. And we look at this English translation of Abhinav Gupta's Sanskrit commentary. Now, Abhinav Gupta was a Kashmiri who wrote a very interesting commentary on the Gita. So let's see what he says. He says, Asamshayam, through an attitude of desirelessness, so that is a vairagya, the craving for sense objects is destroyed. Through practice, stage after stage, the side of emancipation is occupied by the mind. Hence, both are included. Regarding this, it has been said by the revered author of the Bhashya as, restraint of mental modification depends on both attitude of desirelessness and practice. Hence, this solemn declaration. So therefore, the vairagya is more of an attitude because, see, I can fail. See, I can do my abhyasa, I can fail. Now, if I get too attached to my failure, then I cannot continue the practice. Or if I get too attached to success, I have controlled my mind. Aj, I did not have, I like rasgullas. I did not have, I had 100 rasgullas in front of me. I did not have even one. If you're very proud of that, so you're not detached to that success, then one day you will actually have at least 10 rasgullas. Or today you had promised yourself not to have any rasgulla at all, and then you had one because you felt very tempted, and then you get so dejected by that, and then you say that humse to ye control hoga nahi, and therefore let me have more of the rasgullas. So this is what we mean by vairagya. You must have vairagya or detachment to your success and failure, which is what we also mean by samabuddhi. So vairagya is samabuddhi in a different form in the context of practice. And therefore, it's a very valid way of mind control. In fact, when you read the advice that is given on meditation, meditation is, see, if you have no thoughts in meditation, it is samadhi. But when you have these thoughts and you're able to then control the thoughts and then go back. So you will be disturbed in the process of meditation, and your alertness lies in recognizing the disturbance and constantly getting your mind back on focus. This practice of getting your mind back on focus is the practice of meditation. And when it becomes so automatic that your mind is focused only on one thing, then it is what is called samadhi. So we need to understand that we are all in the process of meditation, dhyana, where we have to constantly have abhyasa and vairagya as the uh, key concepts or key practices. Because unless you have both the attitude and the practice, which is what we also learn in modern times. So abhyasa is practice and vairagya is attitude. So I think it's very well understood in terms of its total ramification. 1 minute. Where are we? Sharing is paused. Okay, yeah, here we are. So that's what we have in 6.35, and therefore what we have done is, I'll just run back to the original. So we've done 6.20, 6.21, 6.29, 6.35. So we've done now, I think, with 6.35, which is what we did just now, we have therefore a practical manual of what we need to do, because the manual tells us what we need to do, looks at the perfection of the practice, yata deepo nivatasto, that's the last shloka of the last class. And we have here, therefore, an objection, and the objection being handled also. So now the next logical thing is to understand what does the Bhagavad Gita say on the practice itself. So I've kind of done this bit of homework. Of course, we'll not do all this today. So, japa is one of the techniques of meditation. Meditation is a broad English word, and japa is one of the techniques of meditation. And then there is a lot that is spoken about Om, and there is a shloka on the Gayatri, and then there are 24 Gita shlokas which are elaborating the meaning of the Gayatri. So what we will do in this remaining part is we'll just do 2 slides where I'll just take up the shlokas on japa. So I'll just explain that to you, and the shlokas on Om. So shlokas on Om and japa are Maharshina, it's in the 10th chapter. Maharshina Bhruguraham Giram Asmi Ekam Aksharam. So Giram is words, Ekam Aksharam. I am the single lettered word, and the only single lettered word that recognizes Om. So therefore, Om is representative of the highest sort of spiritual significance. And further in the same shloka, we have Yajnanam Japa Yajyo Asmi. So Krishna says of sacrifice and the sacrifice of japa. So therefore, doing japa of Om is in fact a very, very healthy, helpful, and useful. I think we spoke about that earlier also, and I think Sunilji had shared a video that he had created along with one more senior colleague about the value of Om chanting. So again, just to indicate to all of us that it's been very clearly identified. In fact, in the same shloka itself. That's the interesting thing. Then on Om, you have some other shloka, which I thought I'll just put here. So it says, Pranavah Sarva Vedeshu, of the sacred syllable Om, I'm the sacred, Sarva Vedeshu Pranava. Pranava is another name for Om. Then you have 8.13 where it says Omityekaksharam Brahma. So that is, I am the single syllable Om, which is Brahma. Then 17.23 and 17.24 give you applications, Om Tat Sat, when you say this is how you typically, end or start a particular sacrifice. And Om Iti Udahritya means with the utterance of Om. So essentially, I mean, just indicating that Om is a very, very significant, and the japa of Om is one of the methods of meditation given, because japa is also kind of very strongly implied here. I will not be going into the 24 Gita shlokas elaborating the meaning of the Gayatri. Maybe you can take a look at this, and if you believe it's important, we can always go in for a separate session on this. So with that, I will stop the share here, and we'll seek out a discussion on this matter. So,
Raj, what is the meaning of Gayatri here?
okay, what is the meaning of Gayatri here? Yeah, so that's a good question. Now, Gayatri is a chand, and Gayatri is a particular chand in which the Vedas are composed. And what we call the Gayatri mantra is in the Gayatri chand. So you can, and it is the most representative of the mantras in the Gayatri chand is called Gayatri. So the moment you say Gayatri mantra, it is in the Gayatri chand. And therefore it is the mantra that we know, Om Bhurdhuvasya Tatsa Viturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya. After that everybody knows. So that is what the Gayatri means. And I simply brought the Gayatri reference saying that you have two options of doing japa. Okay, you can either do japa of Om or you can do japa of Gayatri, because both these are mentioned in the Gita, and therefore in the context of the fact that we are doing Dhyana Yoga, we can opt for either doing chanting of Om or doing chanting of Gayatri. That is the reason why I brought it.
Okay. And what's the meaning is covered in the various shlokas, what you have referred around 24 shlokas?
Okay. So that is something which is very interesting. So there is a very famous, call him, Brahma Jnani, named Vishwanatha, Brahma Shri Vishwanatha Shastri. So what he has done is, he has selected 24 shlokas of the Gita, and 24 because there are 24 syllables in the Gayatri, Tatsa Viturvarenyam Agyasura Vairabha. Bhargo Devasya. If you count the number of syllables, they are 8, 8, 8. Tatsa Viturvarenyam 8, Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi 8, Dhiyona Prachodayat 8. So there is a significance to the number 24. So these 24 shlokas elaborate the meaning of the Gayatri. It is not that it is a syllable to syllable. So it's not that, Tat is the first shloka and like that. If you understand these 24 shlokas of the Gita, you will understand the meaning of the Gayatri in very great depth. That is the significance.
Where can I get this Gayatri mantra explanation? Because I am reciting every day, but I do not know the meaning.
Are bhai, okay, I have a big library on that, so I'll send it to you separately. I send it to everybody.
Kindly, not a big library. I want some small, which I can understand. And
no, absolutely. Done. Absolutely. So
then
I
second
will send
thing,
you. Yeah.
Please. Second thing, this Vairagya, is a non-attachment or is it a detachment?
Non-attachment.
Both are same.
Yeah, actually, Angrezi ka mamla hai. Non-attachment, detachment is more or less the same. So it's like saying uninterested, disinterested. I think both of them mean the same, right? So
Vairagya means
बिना राग के,
बिना राग के, हाँ, बिना राग के. उसका संस्कृत का मीनिंग ये हुआ. When I say detachment, so when I know the something and I am detaching myself, उससे मैं अलग कर रहा हूँ. Non-attachment means I do not know the meaning even. That's why I am not attached.
I will not debate on English. मैं तो सिर्फ कहूँगा भाई वैराग्य. ठीक है. अंग्रेजी में हमको कुछ मुश्किला, I mean, I'm talking like a Hyderabadi now. मुश्किलां झेलना पड़ता है बॉस. So I will not, I will not, defend English at any point in time. So if at
No,
all,
that's not required. That's not required. That is for just understanding purpose.
yeah, absolutely. In the sense that English is always prone to some kind of, because, English in our mind would depend upon, how much.
नहीं, मतलब ऐसा है कि हम तो हैं तो हिंदी भाषी,
हाँ,
अंग्रेजी भी पढ़ते हैं, अंग्रेजी बोलते समझते जो हैं ना, अब अंग्रेजी आती ना हिंदी आती है.
correct. So as they say, धोबी का कुत्ता ना घर का ना घाट का.
तो
We are
जो
in
भाषा
between.
में समझ में आ जाए, जो भाषा समझ में आ जाए वही ठीक
Correct.
है.
No, absolutely. You're absolutely right. So it's unfortunate that we are doing it in English, but nevertheless, better do something rather than do nothing is the whole point. Okay. So there is a chat question I have, and the chat question, Vairagya. Yeah, that's right. Okay.
It is
That
the
was
same
from-
question what Sunil Rastogi asked.
Yeah. So I hope you got clarity on the matter now. So Vairagya means bina rag ke.
बट मेरा एक इसमें अभी कमेंट डेवलप हो रहा है आपके डिस्कशन के बाद, वो लग रहा है कि मुझे लगता है कि अगर अटैच ही नहीं करें तो शायद इट इज इजियर, बिकॉज अटैच करने के बाद ब्रेक करना और ज्यादा कठिन हो जाता है. तो कई चीजों से हम कॉन्शियसली अपने आप को नॉन अटैचमेंट कर सकते हैं अगर हम पहले से सोच के बैठे हो कि यार इससे अटैचमेंट मत करो इस चीज से. जैसे मान लीजिए कोई सामान घर में मंगाया और हमने अटैचमेंट कर लिया उससे पहले ही, तो हम क्या होता है, अगर सामान टूटेगा तो डेफिनेटली हमें बहुत ज्यादा दुख होगा. अगर हम पहले से सोच के रहेंगे यार इससे अटैचमेंट करने की जरूरत नहीं है, तो शायद हम अपने आप को सम बुद्धि में रख सकेंगे.
Yeah, absolutely. As they say, it is better not to fall in love than to fall in love and break up. No, break up is very difficult.
बट मैं एक्चुअली लव और अटैचमेंट को बिल्कुल अलग अलग चीजें मानता हूँ. लव बहुत नोबल चीज मानता हूँ और अटैचमेंट को वर्ल्डली मानता हूँ, मटेरियलिस्टिक मानता हूँ.
Yeah, understood. So
one question there.
Yeah.
In today's discussion, yoga, or in English we say yoga, is mentioned कि by constant practice आपके you will be परम सुखम की तरफ आप अनुभव कर सकते हैं. तो by yoga means yoga asanas and meditation. And second point is कि बाहरी चीजें आपको डिस्टर्ब नहीं करेंगी, कुछ अपने ही विकार रहते हैं. बाहरी डजंट मीन अदर पर्सन, हमारे ही विकार से हम डिटैच हो. लाइकिंग डिसलाइकिंग हम लोग को ट्रबल करती है, तो उसी से वैराग लेना ही इज डिटैचमेंट परहैप्स. दिस आई वांट टू आस्क.
Yeah. So when we say yoga, the thing is that in the Bhagavad Gita, yoga can mean karma yoga, bhakti yoga, jnana yoga. It can mean any of the yogas. Right? So it does not necessarily mean yogasana. Yogasana. So
something addition, something plus. Okay. Oh.
Yeah. So something, because yoga is any process to take you near the Almighty. Yeah. So yoga karna, jodna. So it's like saying, okay, I can use Fevicol, or I can use Camelin gum, or I can use anything. I must have something to take me and jodify me. And therefore, whatever is within my current ability or current practice, I should do. So that is one. And I think your second question was with respect to, I could not remember your second question.
Oh yeah, second question is कि जो बाहरी चीजें डिस्टर्ब नहीं करेंगी, तो बाहरी means other person's behavior or other things, और your अपने ही बाहरी का मतलब होता है I get stressed or something, mind में trouble है, physical pain है.
So two ways, So the source of agitation in our minds can be from outside, because we think about events, people, activities, or it can be of our own creation in the mind. We think about the past, we think about the future, and we think if our attitude is not correct, if our assumption is not correct, then we make a big storm in our mind. So that storm in our mind is our own creation. There was no need for you to create the storm. So once you create the storm, it is out of control, and therefore you find that it is impossible for you to actually control your mind. And this is saying, get rid of all that, because unless you do that, you will not see. The basic logic of all this is, unless you have peace of mind, and peace of mind means less thoughts. Peace of mind means less thoughts. So it's a simple equation. The more number of thoughts you have running up and down, the more agitated your mind is. The less number of thoughts you have, it doesn't mean that you stop thinking. Again, we have to understand that it calls for a certain amount of maturity to understand. That's where I think Vishwarup has said that he has left first. Vishwarup, are you there? Okay. Okay. No, I think he's kind of left.
Can I answer that Gayatri question more? Little throw some more.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, sir. It's open forum, sir.
Sunil.
Hey, I am there, Raj.
Oh, you're
Actually,
there. You're...
No, actually, I was leaving my house, so I am still listening to till that time I leave. I'm trying to listen to whatever the new, good concepts or the questions are extremely nice because it is making you understand the things better. Especially Sunil Jigar's question, I could not answer. I could not understand properly. So I thought I'll ask you again before the meeting finishes. Sunil Jigar had caught up with some new ideas, which he generally does also in all meetings. I was trying to understand what was there actually there. That is the only area where I'm not able to understand. Other things I'm more or less able to understand, though I'm not able to concentrate so much today, but still the overall concept I'm able to understand. The attitude and whatever you said, I'm able to understand it. The attitude and also the concentration you need to have. That is important to get over your problems which are occurring on a regular basis. So,
are you talking of attachment and detachment question?
हाँ, वो जो आप बोल रहे थे ना, उसका इंग्लिश मीनिंग क्या है, ऐसा तो होना, इसका मतलब ये होना चाहिए।
परित्याग वाली बात बोल रहे हो आप शायद।
हाँ, परित्याग वाली बात, राइट। उसको हमको समझ में नहीं आ रहा था।
एक्चुअली परित्याग का मतलब जो मुझे हिंदी में समझ में आता है, मतलब इवन त्याग से भी और बेटर वर्ड बनाया गया है कि ताकि आप बिल्कुल उससे डिटैच हो जाए। बट मुझे लगता है कि शायद हमारी गीता हमको मतलब जैसे हम एक्सटर्नल वर्ड जब हम ध्यान करते हैं तो जनरली जैसे हम ध्यान की प्रैक्टिस कराने की बात करते हैं लोगों को, तो हम अक्सर यंगस्टर्स को करते हैं, तो हम उनसे मतलब डिटैचमेंट की ज्यादा बात नहीं करते, उनको एक्सटर्नल वातावरण से बेपरवाह होने को बोलते हैं, सो दैट वो अपने अंदर जा सके। हम मतलब उनको ये फीलिंग नहीं लाने देते हैं कि हम उनको जैसे सन्यासी बनाने की कोशिश कर रहे हो।
आप ये यही बात ही बोले थे, राइट?
हाँ,
एग्जैक्टली यही बात।
ये तो मुझे भी लगता है कि गीता भी शायद हमें सन्यासी बनाने की कोशिश नहीं करती, हमको वर्ल्ड में रहते हुए अपनी ड्यूटी along with certain guiding principles की बात करती है।
Correct. So in fact, I was listening to Vivek Devroy. Vivek Devroy is the translator of Mahabharata and the Puran. He has done the Bhagavad Puran, Markandeya Puran, and I think one more Puran he has translated. So I was listening to him the other day. So he was saying that, look, all of us have to keep striving to be successful both in the world and in the other world. Right? Because, you know, you have to live your 70, 80, 90, 100 years in this world. So if everybody is going to become a sannyasi, then who will run the world? Nobody can run the world otherwise. Right? Some log sannyasi ban jayenge, and therefore, you know, no food will be grown, no houses will be built, nothing will happen. How will the economy run? So Vivek Devroy is economist. So according to him, what the Mahabharata, the Gita, the Ramayana they do is, while they give you hints on, you know, moksha shastra, sannyasi and all that, the practical aspects are addressed to 99% of humanity who have to live the 70, 80, 90, 100 years in the world. So if it is going to convert people into sannyasis, then it is not relevant to society, because the moment you become sannyasi, you and society have got no connection, right? If everybody becomes sannyasi, then you are like asteroid. You know, everybody is running around in his own orbit. You are not a planet. Planet में तो लोग एक साथ होते हैं ना, asteroid में तो सब लोग अपना घूमते रहते हैं.
But now I am getting confused. Why we call it renunciation?
Renunciation of what is a question. Renunciation cannot be used in isolation. So are you saying renunciation means sannyasa? Or are you saying renunciation of bad desire? Renunciation of what?
Okay.
Correct. So you must qualify the renunciation का एक object होता है ना, subject verb object. तो renunciation तो आपने एक verb बना दिया है, उसको आपने noun बना दिया, renounce. So when you renounce something, what do you renounce? Renunciation तो आपका noun हो गया.
Okay.
Renounce आपका verb हो गया. तो renounce आप क्या कर रहे हैं बताइए?
without any object,
Ah,
it has
ah.
got no meaning.
Yeah.
Or
Negative
it has
key.
got doesn't explain. It doesn't explain.
Yeah, it does not explain. It does not explain. It's like saying, मैं जो है संन्यास ले रहा हूँ. अरे भाई क्यों ले रहे हो? क्या बात है? बीवी से परेशान हूँ, बच्चों से परेशान हूँ, क्यों?
Let me complete this meaning of Gayatri in just a minute.
Sure, sure.
That just break the word into two parts, Gayan and Atri. You must have heard the name Atri. Atri was a rishi, and
Correct.
Atri actually means जिसको ब्रह्मा ने बनाया हो.
Okay.
तो जो साउंड ब्रह्मा ने बनाई है, हम उसकी बात करते हैं जब हम गायत्री की बात करते हैं. तो साउंड फ्रॉम द जनरेटर. और हम ऐसा एक्चुअली ये कंसेप्ट इसलिए दिया गया है कि हम गायत्री को एक बेसिक साउंड मानते हैं. उसी पर आधारित गायत्री मंत्र किया गया, जिसमें एक्चुअली हम नेचर की वर्शिप की ही बात करते हैं. वेद से लिया गया है. और वैसे गायत्री का अगर आप नेट पे सर्च करेंगे तो आपको वेदों की बेटी मिलेगा उसका मीनिंग. तो वेदास हम ऑलरेडी मानते हैं कि वो ऐसे ग्रंथ हैं जिसको मतलब जो ईश्वरीय ज्ञान है. हमारे शायद बहुत सारे पुराने ऋषियों ने लिखा है उसको, तो वो उसको हम एक्स्ट्रा ऑर्डिनरी नॉलेज मानते हैं. तो जो वर्डली मीनिंग है उससे भी काफी कुछ समझ में आ जाता है. कि इसीलिए हम वो साउंड की प्रैक्टिस, जो जप में हम बात कर रहे हैं कि हम ओम का जप करते रहे, तो वो प्रोबब्ली ऐसा थॉट दिया गया है कि हमको डिस्ट्रैक्शन अवॉइड करने के लिए, हमको चूंकि हम आंख बंद करके बैठे हैं तो लाइट तो देख नहीं सकते हैं, तो हम सेंसेस को और ज्यादा डिस्ट्रैक्ट ना करें, तो हम अपने बॉडी में एक रेजोनेटिक साउंड फील कर ले, ताकि हमारा ध्यान और बेटर लग पाए और हम रिपीटेडली प्रैक्टिस कर पाए जो भी चीज चाह रहे हैं करना. तो दैट इज द कंसेप्ट ऑफ जप. मतलब जरूरी नहीं है कि हम जब अगर किसी को बताएं तो उसको लगा दे कि भाई तू ये इतनी बार. आजकल तो जब के लोग पैसे लेते हैं. आपने देखा होगा कि अगर आपके घर में कोई दिक्कत हो जाए ना, तो आपके पंडित आएगा, कहेगा कि मैं इतने मंत्रों का जाप करूंगा और आपसे वो पैसा दक्षिणा लेके चला जाएगा.
वो महामृत्युंजय जाप करेंगे 1 लाख.
बहुत सारे जाप होते हैं. मतलब मेरी मदर अक्सर जाप करवाया करती थी, तो मुझे मालूम है वो पूरा प्रोसेस, और उसमें काफी खर्चा आता था. तो एक जप को भी जप होता है.
गलत नहीं.
हाँ, तो गायत्री को आप बहुत सिंपल वर्ड में उसके संधि विच्छेद से भी समझ सकते हैं. ओके.
नहीं बहुत बढ़िया है.
So what I'll do is, so now you'll have to tell me how we proceed further, because now the topics that are left in the 93 shlokas that we had originally planned are all shlokas on sannyasa and bhakti and stuff like that. They are not the ones that I think this group is likely to be interested in. Therefore, I'll just put back the 1 minute. I'll just share the screen once again, and then you can tell me how we proceed ahead. Section 16, 1 minute share. So I'll just say present from the beginning. So I'm just going back here. Okay. So yeah, here. So now what I did is I promoted Bhakti Yoga to the 3rd level now. We have done Samabuddhi and Buddhi Yoga. Now, I don't know whether these topics will interest you. Bhakti Yoga, Sannyasa Yoga, synthesis of yogas, cosmic form. So these are all about 46 shlokas are there, 45, 46 shlokas. So are these topics of interest to you? Or should I take up some specialized...
Yoga is interesting. Yoga, not others. I feel.
It's a Bhakti Yoga you're interested.
I think, Raj, whatever we have scheduled, we should go ahead on that.
Okay.
And we can add on here and there further, but I think we should continue with the what schedule we have.
हम लोग
ठीक है, no problem.
अब रस आने लगा है.
Exactly.
Raj, you will tell in place of this, which other shlokas you will be sharing, or what other choice is there? Is there choice?
Yeah,
choice
so I was thinking,
वो राज आप डिसाइड कर लो. आप हम लोगों को देखते हुए जो डिसाइड करोगे, आप सबसे बेटर डिसाइड करोगे.
No, in the sense that
you yourself decide. That will be fine.
See, we all 5 or 6 are there. No one is going to join further, and we would like to continue this session, this discussion, as long as possible, convenient to all.
Okay, fine. So here is what I will do. Yeah. So I think what I will do is, since we are on the topic of, okay, so I think I will follow Sunil R's advice, which is to go as per plan. और बीच बीच में अगर डिविएशन मारना है तो मार देंगे, ठीक है?
ओके
So as of now I will start with Bhakti Yoga. I mean next week we will do that. अगर बीच में भी आपको लगा Bhakti Yoga is becoming somewhat then because I have number of topics for deviation. So the thing is that I have got one fund of topics. Leadership hai, psychology hai, cosmology hai. So we can have one little this thing on the cosmology in the Gita, physics in Gita. बहुत कुछ है. So the thing is that now that we've got really interested and and also hopefully you found the yantras a little more useful today.
Yes,
I don't know.
yes.
Yeah. So I'm also evolving that process of how to make these flow charts and all that. So therefore, it's mutual learning. So we'll go by Bhakti Yoga next week. Of course, we'll be able to do only 5 shlokas because 5 shlokas is good enough actually for discussion and all the other things. And we will see. Agar in between, if there's a need, Bhakti Yoga mein kuch aur karna hai. Just like between Jnana Yoga and Karma Yoga, we did Samabuddhi Buddhi Yoga. Now, what I will do is I will send references, simpler references on Gayatri to the group. If you want, we can take up subsequently the 24 shlokas of the Gita, which throw more light on Gayatri. We can do that also. So we will just leave it to the immediate needs. So immediate need is we will stick to plan, correct? Because this was a plan made, we stick to plan. So is that okay?
Okay.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Any suggestion for Sunil ji? Garg?
नहीं, सी आई एम फाइन विद दैट, बट राजशेखर जैसे रिसोर्स को तो हम लीडरशिप और फिजिक्स और कॉस्मोलॉजी के लिए जरूर यूज करेंगे ही. कोई
नहीं,
राजशेखर जी को
बिल्कुल.
हम छोड़ने वाले थोड़ा ही है, तो जैसा प्लान है वो करते हैं. और अभी तो जब तक जीवन है, जब तक गीता है.
No, in fact, you will not believe, my evening batch, we were having a conversation. Then I told them that, Krishna had many conversations on wisdom. So there's a Gita called Anugita. There's a Gita called Uddhava Gita. There's a Gita called Uttara Gita. So these are all Gitas. Gita is basically a conversation in poetic form,
Yes.
which, Krishna had with Arjuna. So Bhagavad Gita is the most famous one, but in the Mahabharata, you have other conversation. And in the Srimad Bhagavatam, you have Uddhava Gita. So you know what my evening batch has said, sir, we are booking you. Bhagavad Gita, and they are doing 700 shloka. Bhagavad Gita ke baad Anugita, Anugita ke baad Uddhava Gita, Uddhava Gita, Uttara Gita. मैंने कहा, you have blocked me till 2026 because that batch is doing only 5 evening. I mean, 3 classes a week. So I said, I have got absolutely no problem. आप जिंदगी भाई जब तक सांस है, अब आप लोग हैं, मैं हूं, मैं तो करते रहूंगा. You have to show interest. I am here, right? क्योंकि भाई एक्चुअली ये किताबी कीड़ा होने का कुछ तो किसी को फायदा हो. क्योंकि मुझे सर जिंदगी में बीबी से इतनी गालियां मिली हैं इन सब किताबों को खरीदने के लिए, इतनी गालियां मिली हैं आप नहीं समझ सकते.
देखो गालियां तो हमेशा ही मिलती हैं.
हम उसको समत में ला देंगे उस बात को. बीवी गाली वर्सेस दोस्तों का प्यार हम समत में बना देंगे आपके मन में.
So therefore, it's a matter of cost benefit analysis. बहुत कॉस्ट भुगता है इसको खरीदने के लिए गाली के फॉर्म में, तो सबको बेनिफिट मिलना चाहिए. That's my logic. ठीक है सर. So definitely we will proceed with the plan as of now, and we will look at further topics as we go along, right? So that's my commitment, and that's our mutual commitment, mutual understanding. So with that, thank you so much for being a part of this, and I'm going to end the meeting. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye bye.
happy Holi.
Thank you,
Happy
Raj.
Holi.
Happy
होली की शुभकामनाएं.
Happy Holi to all.